Hi there. Welcome to the Raven's Call. I'm Eric Wyrd, Weaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas, and this is a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects. Now, word of warning, this is a show where it's my point of view on the world in general. It is my heathen worldview, and it is not necessarily reflective of heathenry in general. There are a number of heathens that do think the way that I do, hence why I have the channel out there, because you guys keep coming and keep listening and like what I have to say, or at least it's close enough on base that you find it interesting, or you just like to see what in the world I'm going to come up with next because you think I'm crazy. Either way, welcome to the show. Now, a bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you like the shows, if you like what I'm throwing out there, please hit like down below. Give it the thumbs up. That really helps to get it out in front of other people. It really helps to get more videos like this into your feed. Also hit subscribe, ding the bell. If you want to contact me about anything, all my contact information is listed down below. You're going to find my my Twitter, you're going to find my email, and I believe you're going to find my Saraha, which is an anonymous kind of messaging app where you can send me something, but even I don't know who sent it. It just shows up as a message with no from. So it's a great way to anonymously give feedback if you're kind of shy or don't necessarily want your name out there, or you just want to play with it and have some fun. You know, I luckily have not had any kind of bullying or anything like that try to come through there. I haven't gotten any death threats or whatnot through Saraha, which I know some people have. But I've gotten some cool poetry and some neat jokes and things like that. Just kind of fun stuff that maybe people don't want their name fully attached to, and the anonymity is kind of fun with it. So anyway, it's there if you want it. Now, on to today's subject. This is one that's a personal kind of brain fire of mine, mind fire. And it's something that I've thought on pretty heavily. And I thought I'd share with you guys just to kind of throw out there. It's still kind of a work in progress. But we talked a little bit about Veis before, okay? And I'm not going to go through and do this is the Veii kind of deal. I will do a more granular, I think, video on Veis in the future. But I kind of want to do that one where I can film from site and maybe do like outside of my Veii. Obviously, I can't take anything into my Veii. I don't allow any kind of electronics or anything to pass the barrier into my Veii. But I seem to be able to film it from the outside okay, maybe. I don't know. I'll get a feel for it. It'll either let me or it won't. As simple as how that works. But here's the gist. A Veii is kind of a sacred space, a sacred grove. Typically, it's done outside. When it's an indoor sacred space, you frequently hear it referred to as a hof. At least in this area, you tend to hear it called a hof. Now, I realize that can have different meanings depending on the different regions you're in. But in our region, at least, typically we refer to as an indoor altar space and ritual space, as at least if it's dedicated to that purpose, it's a hof. Especially if it's its own standalone building. It's hof, it's its own hall, it's a ritual hall. Outdoors, we like to call it a Veii, which is a sacred grove, a sacred space where we will go and construct what I call a hogr, which is a stone altar that is stood up. Now, if it's wood, it's a stali. Stali, S-T-A-L-I, I believe. I'll have to check on the spelling on that. Anyway, so I like hogr because I like the stone. I like it's an altar, it's a cairn, effectively. And what we do is this space is an open clearing in a little wooded area. It doesn't have to be a wooded area, but it is a nexus of sacred energies. This is a place where you feel the connection with the land the strongest. This is a place where you would almost feel the heart of the place is. It naturally draws you to it and feels like a natural place to do ritual. Now, as I've talked before in some of my other videos, you end up creating this kind of anchor point in Wyrd, in the energies at play by repeatedly doing these rituals. It's what makes it a ritual, is that it is repeated with purpose. And what you end up doing with that is you create an energy draw to this focal point, and you end up create a beacon that the gods can then find. Now, the Veii itself is the space wherein a ritual takes place. The altar itself is where the ritual occurs, and it is the conduit between the profane world and the sacred world. Now, in a lot of ways, we've thought simply about the space of the Veii in terms of, this ring of circle on the circular ring on the ground, altar maybe as a doorway, conduit, gateway, whatnot. I had a revelation that kind of changed my way of thinking about it. Okay? And this is about the Veii in general. And it hit on some fairly important points because you frequently see people who ward their Veis. They create, they'll put up wards, some kind of protective ritual spell, if you will. Sometimes it's statues, sometimes it's a physical boundary like a rope or a stone wall, things like that create an inside and an outside, an inner yard and an outer yard. It's a manifestation of the innengard, udengard. And when we create ritual, we're inviting the tribe of the gods to interact with our tribe within the Veii. And the boundary I've always seen is keeping things out, as far as keeping out baleful spirits, mean and hurtful spirits, or contaminants that might in some way damage the ritual that's going on. I had a revelation the other day. Made me think about the wards a little bit differently. Okay? Now, so much of a heathenry I view as a tree. And the tree imagery is central to everything. I've talked about it before about being rooted in tradition, centered in the here and now, but growing towards new growth, new development, things like that. Hence my middle of the road approach. I like the tree trunk, in between new growth and tradition kind of thing. Yggdrasil is our axis mundi, the pillar upon which all the worlds are based. And it is, the tree imagery is incredibly prevalent in our mythology, in the lore, in the Eddas. If you look at Ash and Embla, that was an ash and an elm tree that were given form to make humankind. You look at a number of different things, and you see trees more and more prevalent, both in folklore and in a bit in the core lore in the Eddas, but the acorn is mentioned frequently. A lot of the, like Yggdrasil is heavily focused on Ash and Embla. So you get a lot of that going on. There's a plant focus, a heavy plant focus in a lot of the lore as far as the kind of fantastic elements that are added in. So we have this focus on trees. And so I began to think about Yggdrasil. And I was meditating on the world tree, thinking upon the roots of Yggdrasil, going down into the worlds, being fed from Urdabrunner, or Urd's well, the well of Wyrd, as one of the wells that one of the roots of Yggdrasil reaches down into. Now the branches of Yggdrasil reach up to Asgard, and the roots go all the way down to Urd's well, to Urdabrunner. And there, the Norns cake the roots with the white clay mud from the waters. Now, one of the things that I liked, that has come to me and I think about differently, is that, traditionally, a lot of people think of the Well of Wyrd as we would a well. Like the stone ring that goes down, drop the bucket into it, pull up, you've dug a well. However, everything that I've looked at and my own insights into it, plus other people's insights that I've read, think of the Well of Wyrd not so much as a well, like an Old English well, but more like a wellspring, an upwelling of water, which is an active force. It's waters rising up to the surface, churning and mixing the top waters back in to the lower waters and bringing up new waters from underneath. This kind of spring-fed kind of thing. No one knows where it begins. Just like when Odin is hanging on Yggdrasil and he looks down into the roots and into the darkness where he knows not where it goes, how deep it goes. This is the way of the Well of Wyrd as well, that we do not know the depths of the well. We know what we can remember, what has been passed to us through Orlog, but it goes back to time immemorial. And this is where the roots of Yggdrasil go to be fed. So the Norns, which you can look at my Norn video and see, I look at the Norns a little bit differently too. But these are the Norns that are tied to the gods, that are feeding, as far as specifically Yggdrasil, that are feeding the roots and caking them in the white clay mud that goes along with this wellspring. which you would see in a wellspring as opposed to in a stone well. So what we see here is the gods above, the tree, and then the root that comes down into Wyrds well. And this is where deeds are recorded. This is where those energies that mankind, that all of us, all of creation, put our energies into the well of Wyrd. That's what we do in Symbol. That's what we do in Blot, in anything. We add our energies into the well of Wyrd. Filia come back and record our, well, they report our dealings, our doings, our deeds, which are recorded into the well of Wyrd to become Orlog. Our Norns are actually the ones that do that. I see our Norns as particularly tied to... I see the Norns of an individual line as being Disir, as being strong, maternal, semi-divine, almost divine, ancestral spirits who watch over and are responsible for the lifespans of their ancestors. They kind of take up the mantle, and then I see Wyrd, Vertandi, and Skuld actually as titles for those, depending on the different areas that they step into, the specialist areas that they step into. Anyway, that's beside the point. Now, this imagery that leads from the well up the root, feeding the tree that supports Asgard, is similar in relationship to our sacrificial offerings, because the energies that we sacrifice, that we give in ritual, go through the altar and up to support the realm of the sacred. We feed back in to give our part of the gift exchange, to feed back into, to repay our debt to the gods. This is a gift debt that we have incurred because they have gifted us with Midgard, with life, with everything that we are. We would not have any of it without the gods. And so we repay that through rites of return, wherein we are returning energies as a thank you, an homage, as a paying our gift debt kind of thing. So we go through these rituals and feed back to the gods. And I see that imagery, like I said before, kind of crossing over with the Veii. So it's giving me a reason to think about the Veii in a different sense. What if instead of seeing the Veii like just this grove in the middle of a circle, the imagery at play is actually the Veii in its circular shape is the well of Wyrd. It, for the moment of the ritual, becomes the well of Wyrd because we have established this in ritual. Now this again gets into kind of the woo-woo religious aspect of things, but for the moment that I've always kind of talked about the Veii as being kind of a delta for sacred energies that come down through the altar and from the gods to be shared with the people. But we feed our energies back up through it as well, so it's something of a two-way gateway. What if the Hogr or Stali, what if the altar is the root of Yggdrasil, reaching into the wellspring of the Veii and taking those energies of our deeds that we have put into the well back up the root to Asgard, to the gods in the realm of the sacred. So this transforms the Veii from just simply a circle in a grove kind of thing, or even a dedicated space out in the open, to a metaphorical well of Wyrd. It's the same thing we do with Symbol, because the horn in Symbol becomes the well of Wyrd, and our words over it, our deeds over it, go into that well, and we share it amongst ourselves. We share it with the gods and goddesses, and it gets recorded into history because we create a tie in Wyrd to strengthen that, to tell our ancestors, tell our Norns, this is something that needs to be marked and written down and put into the well. And so ritualistically, that horn becomes the well. Similarly, the Veii becomes the well. And we enter the Veii with all of our deeds, with all of our energies, with everything that we are. The minute we step into that Veii, past whatever threshold we've established, we then feed our energies into that Veii. We pour that piece of ourselves into this space, and it gets recorded into the energies of this space. And then when we open the altar, when we put the clay and mud on the altar, figuratively speaking. When you begin the ritual, when you begin bathing the root of Yggdrasil in the white clay, that opens the gateway up and carries that energy from us to the gods. As in Midgard, so in Asgard. We feed that energy up through the root, up through the trunk, to the gods and the sacred. It is the pathway between the sacred and the profane. The only thing that crosses the sacred and the profane worlds is Yggdrasil. It is through Yggdrasil that the gods pass between the worlds. Even though the gods created this world, Yggdrasil is how they pass it, how they ride through. And again, I do think of the worlds as in separate worlds, separate planes in reality. I realize that there have been recent videos put out that contest that and think of it more as a location within a space, heim, as opposed to, Wyrd. There's a linguistic thing. I get it. I still think of things in parallel, multiverse kind of viewpoints because I'm crazy like that, and I don't mind going out there on a limb and discussing those things. So that is why this is important to me. Rethinking the imagery behind the Veii then calls into question the purpose of the wards and the boundaries that we place into effect on the Veii. Now, thinking of the Veii simply as, just a ritual circle, and that, and not applying the well theory, the boundary around it is intended to keep things out. It is intended to mark this as other. This is sacred space. So we have a boundary around it which clearly identifies this is other. That is all just profane space around us. This circle, this ring, is a temporary in-between between the profane and the sacred. It is neither, and yet it is both. And that is this time outside of time, place outside of place. It's where we touch into sacred time, touch into sacred energies and sacred space, and we kind of try to blend the two together in that moment. Now, ultimately speaking, the wards in that are intended to keep things out, to keep pollutants out. The taboos that we put into place for our Veis are things like, I know a lot of them won't allow weapons inside the Veii. I know a lot of, unless they're like for ritual purposes, dedicated to that purpose. I don't allow electronics in our Veii, anything that draws an electric current. I won't even take my watch in there, even though it's eco-drive and all that stuff. I leave my phones, I leave my watch, I leave everything, my car keys that have the little clicker in them, I leave that outside the Veii. We have a little table set up where you check all of that stuff and leave it on the table, and then you can enter the Veii, and we'll do a washing, a cleansing, where we wash away a bit of the outside profane energies, and enter into the Veii. And we do the ritual there. The wards are meant to keep things out, right? To protect what is inside. But what if the wards are not just to keep things out? What if the wards are to keep things in? What if, in thinking of it like a well, you recognize that we need to contain these energies, that we need to create a vessel that is capable of holding the divine energy that's coming from the gods? Because, the well of Wyrd is fed by the drippings of Yggdrasil dropping down into the well, and then also feeds back up. So it is a reciprocal thing here. So the gods drip their blessings down upon us, which is part of the reason we use the sprinkling time, the bloten. And this will need boundaries, not just to keep out pollutants. Yes, we want to keep out pollutants because we don't want to muddy the waters. We don't want to dirty the waters. We want to bring our best foot. It's kind of like taking a shower before getting in the pool. I know a lot of people will take a shower when they get out of the pool, but if you take a shower before you get in the pool and you wash off any kind of contaminants that you might actually bring into the pool, and thusly keeping the pool cleaner and nicer for everybody that's involved. I realize getting out, you wash off the chlorine and stuff, but a lot of people, if they're smart, will wash off before they get in, because then you bring less contaminants into the pool itself. You clean yourself before you get into the pool. Ritual bathing. Ritual bathing is a thing in many cultures, And there's a reason for that. You wash away a bit of the profane. Sorry, I'm hitting my cable here. You wash away a bit of that profane. The same thing when you enter into the Veii, if you do, even if it's just a hand bowl where you symbolically wash your hands and shake off the outside world, a bit of the profane. It is a symbolic cleansing. You can use fire to do the same thing. A passage of fire between two torches, past a fire pit, whatever. Also very cleansing. The idea is to wash away or burn away some of the excess mundane energies and to keep the focus on what it is that you actually want to bring into the Veii. The wards, while they keep out all the negative stuff, what if they're levees that are meant to hold the waters of the well of Wyrd in so that it doesn't just spill out everywhere? What if the wards themselves create a boundary, this levee, again, this sandbagged wall, this stone wall, whatever, that the sacred energies then crash against and come back into the middle? You know, if you were to stand there and a spray of energies from the gods, you know, like a waterfall kind of deal, were to shower down and boom, blessed by the gods, it would then just wash away into the outside area. But if a boundary is put up that then hits the boundary and washes back in, more exposure. You contain those energies better, and then there's more absorbed and therefore a more effective ritual because you are better able to partake in the blessings of the gods. So, again, this is all UPG. This is just me kind of rambling and thinking out there. I find imagery to be extremely useful in maintaining the right frame of mind for ritual. Is this an absolute necessity when it comes to ritual? No, I don't think so. I know too many people that have had success in ritual without it. Do I think it may be a tool we can use to tweak ritual and make some of our rituals better by thinking about these things? I do, because I'm definitely going to use it in our rituals to help kind of fuel how we go about building our rituals and the mechanics behind that, you know? To think of things with the Veii as well in mind, you know, with the Hogar as root of Yggdrasil in mind. I'm going to think about how to harness those energies that then pool within the Veii. I'm going to think of ways that help to draw the energies from us upwards to the gods through that. You know, this is going to be a shift in kind of thinking, which actually carries, and this is kind of a bit of an aside. I realize syncretism's a thing, but if you look at like feng shui, not like house feng shui, not like, you know, where you place your couch affects the luck in the house kind of thing. I'm talking about actual like old school Shinto stuff, where they look at the ley lines on the land and where the energy flows. Energy flows across the land because this actually crosses cultures and the way, if you look at the way people set up sacred spaces, ritual items, energy flows across the land like water. It follows a path of least resistance. You will find ley lines tend to follow geographical, topographical flow charts, you know. Mountain ranges can affect which way energies will flow across the land. Underground passageways like underground springs and things like that will create a draw for energies. They definitely like to follow along waterways, but they flow somewhat like water. So if you want to know where the energy flow on your property is, watch your watershed. That's probably where things are going to flow to. And you will find that they tend to pool up in areas. Certain things can cause eddies or catches. And so that's why I have no problem thinking about the ritual space in terms of a liquid. It's also why I think of liquid as being an effective method of transference of energy for ritual purposes, is because of this crossover, because of this tie-in. You know, because water carries those energies so well, we see it in the ley lines here on Midgard. The flow of energy unseen with the flow of matter and water that we do see, all of this works together. Transposing those two, it makes sense why we would use a fluid for ritual. It makes sense, you know, why seeing the Veii as the well of Wyrd and the mechanics at play there, because we're dealing with energy, which mimics the metaphysically mimics the physics of water in a lot of ways. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm seeking to improve the quality of my ritual through this imagery and through mechanics that keep that imagery in mind. So I'm thinking it all out as I go through, guys. This is an idea that I've been working on for a while and have kind of fleshed out a good bit. Some of it I'm actually actively fleshing out as we talk, which is when you can see me get really excited and flowing, is because, you know, it's like boom, new spark, let's go this way. So I really hope that this is something that you guys find interesting and that you enjoy. If not, then I get it, don't worry about it. We'll get back onto other subjects and I'll kind of rein it in. But I know some of you guys like the out there woo-woo stuff and seeing how my mind works in the whole UPG metaphysics kind of realm of things. Well, this is it. You don't get a whole lot more than this. Well, that and my stuff on magic before, and hexes and curses and things like that. But this is specifically about ritual. So this crosses the spiritual and the religious all kind of in one big thing, plus uses, you know, metaphor and imagery, which I am a huge fan of, being a writer or a poet. Metaphor and imagery are kind of my language. So I love these. I love this because it helps to translate more than just the concepts at play, but an aesthetic. It helps to translate nuances, mechanics. There's so much more that you can translate through a metaphor than you can in just an explicit description sometimes. The things that don't translate into words well can be translated along with this image. So the whole picture's worth 1,000 words thing, a metaphor is the same way. It's worth 1,000 explanations. So anyway, that's enough on this subject. I've rambled on for about a half hour on this. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've started adding bloopers to the end of the videos. I know somebody had asked me to do that. And instead of going through and doing a whole blooper reel episode, which was fun, but nobody really watched it all the way through, I throw a couple of them on to the end of a video. If I have any kind of bloopers from that video, I'll toss them on there. Little quick edits and things like that. Sometimes I'll just include little, hey, this is, you know, a picture of me having to work through this, just so you can kind of know the headache that I do behind the scenes kind of deal, to kind of just include you in that process. So if you like them, okay, cool, let me know. If you don't like them, if you think they're a waste of time, then let me know too, and I'll just quit doing them, because that's less editing for me, not to have to do them. But I have them there, and it doesn't take me all that much more, so I don't mind doing it at all. It's kind of fun and funny for me too. I enjoy it, but just feedback. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know, guys, what you think about this video. Comments down below. Please join the Facebook group, Wyrd-Weaver Productions. You can see it on there. You'll find all of that in the description down below. Keep checking back, guys. I drop these every Wednesday morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning, Central Standard Time. At least I schedule it for that, as long as I can keep my production schedule ahead. Because I do these on YouTube and I don't do like live videos, the scheduling on it can get kind of hectic. So I try to film multiple in one go sometimes. Sometimes it gets down to the wire and I have to slide something out with minimal editing. So it just depends. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Thank you guys for watching. And without any further ado, I'm going to let you go. So hail, thank you, and may your ancestors smile on you. And all right, we're gonna do the whole Veii thing in 3, 2, 1. Let's jam. I need some water. All right, because I'm gonna have to wrap this up. So I'm outside. Delete this bit. Not blooper reel. Now, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna go back and talk about the whole after the Norns thing. Okay. Yeah. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to talk about what was the subject of this one again? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the whole Veii thing and the wards and the boundaries thing. So yeah, we're going to do that in 3, 2, 1. Let's jam. Hi there. Welcome to the Raven's Call. I'm Eric Wyrd Sjerven, Goalie of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas, and I'd love to welcome you to my show because that's what a guy does when he's welcoming you to the show, which I've said like 7 times in this freaking intro. I swear to the gods. Should be simpler than that, but no. Okay, blooper reel. New footage.